us originally, so we just called dibsies and took her back.
Oh, you want to go there, do you?
I'll be back.
I love to be loved.
See you shortly.
Take it off.
So Jason, when's our
Paybacks.
bearings gonna get fixed?
We've got the emergency PO open right now with Hermiston, and Mike's working on getting it all set.
What needs to be fixed? Oh, the stupid list down.
All right, it's 5 o'clock. We'll bring the finance committee meeting to order for March 12th, 2024. Roll call, I'm here. Councilmember Fullerton is here. Councilmember Hubler is here. Couple of minutes.
Yes, I did not have any change.
Any changes?
No.
Very good. Okay.
It's good.
Department reports and presentations. So we'll go to Mr. McEwen for our personnel update.
Yes, it's gonna be a little brief today. Just so some of you may or may not know, Brian Sandler was out of the office last week. He's on bereavement this week. He will be back in the office next week. So I kind of cobbled together some information. We've had 4 people basically get promoted beginning of this month. So we had Mike Englert went from the maintenance worker 3 to a crew lead. Fabulous Debbie over here went from accounting specialist to admin specialist 3, now with Public Works. Jerry Reish was promoted to judicial branch manager from judicial specialist 3, taking over from Kathy, who retired. And Terry is now backfilling from a judicial specialist 2 to Jerry's old position as a 3. In terms of interviews, last week we conducted Terry's backfill position of a judicial specialist 1-2. Next week, we're doing external interviews for the accounting specialist position that Debbie vacated. And we did send out 2 conditional offers for 2 lateral police offers, and both of them signed.
Awesome. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you.
Mhm.
All right, we'll move on to discussion and action items. First one is AB 24-23, Resolution 3201, interlocal agreement with Pierce County for opioid abatement settlement funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Carter. The first item, there's 2 opioid items in front of you. The first one is a proposed interlocal agreement with Pierce County. We are receiving, the Washington State Attorney's General Office has negotiated settlements with various different pharmaceutical companies. These have been, the city's already agreed to 2 of them. The third one is the next item on the agenda. It's a lot of money when you're looking at, you know, hey, we could potentially, the first 2 we're receiving $250,000 approximately each. That's about $500,000. And then from the third one, which is the second item on the agenda, it's 2 lump sum payments of $73,000, so about $146,000. The first 2 settlements are over a really long period of time. One's 17 years, one's 15 years. So it's like an annuity, like we're receiving some money every year. You know, if I had that money hit my personal bank account, that would be a lot of money. At a city level trying to do something. We had a request for proposals out, an RFP out in August of last year, to see if any agency or business wanted to propose a use of the funds to help connect people to transportation, provide transportation, or help with treatment. Nobody responded to our RFP. So one option that a lot of Pierce County cities are doing is pooling all the funds together with Pierce County. So this is an interlocal agreement where we can opt to pool our funds with Pierce County. We can pool up to 90%. I'd recommend we should hold 10% back because we are required to pay up to 10% of what we receive in settlements to the Pierce County Opioid Abatement Council. That's the council that oversees to make sure we've spent the money appropriately on opioid abatement, some sort of opioid abatement strategy. So we could pool up to 90% of the funds with this under this Pierce County ILA, or we could choose to pool some of it.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. So this, I'm looking at page 3, I think, of 32, resolution 3201. And it's saying that there's 645,000, $645,000 over a period of 17 years. And then the first two settlements are approximately, so is that for 3
Yep,
settlements, or is that for just the 2? That the first 2 come to 500, and then the third one comes to 73,000.
so I'm sorry that was confusing. So there's 3 settlements total. The first 2 settlements that we've already agreed to are 250,000-ish each. So that's the 500,000, and those are spread out. The first one's over a 17-year period, the second one's over a 15-year period. And now this third settlement that's with Johnson and Johnson is 2 lump sums of 73,000 each, which comes out to 146,000. So if I did my lawyer math right, that's about 646,000.
Okay, so it's all 3.
But because those first 2 settlements are spread out over such a long period of time, we're unfortunately, we're not having $645,000 hit our bank account tomorrow. It's going to be spread out over time.
Yeah. So it took them a long time to poison the people, so now we're gonna take
Yeah.
a long time to pay it back.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it was negotiated.
So is this coming out to this essentially, if it's taking 17 years, is that with the 19,000 or the budget amount was 17,000, current balance is 19.
That's how much we've received so far. So I was putting actual numbers that we have, that we've received so far.
And then how often do we get paid? Just once a year?
So it is in that PowerPoint presentation that we pulled. So the next payment will be in July. It's on page 17 of the projected payments. So we've only started receiving from the first payment. I've been told that I attended a webinar last week that the Attorney General's office put on. They said I should be getting an email soon for when the second settlement, that we'll begin receiving those payments, but so far it's only been this first settlement. So we've received the first 3 payments. The next payment is going to be in July of 2024 for the 12,000 and change, then July 2025 for the 12,000 and change.
And so because we're not getting lump sum, that's why we're proposing that we join up with the Pierce County opioid abatement strategy so that we can pool all of the money together. And then we're going to use what you said, the 90%, keeping 10% to pay for the opioid abatement strategy program, or the committee, the subcommittee. So, I'm just like, so basically this committee will tell us how to spend the money, or they're just going to keep us accountable? Because we're not able to do that as a city, to keep ourselves accountable for what the money is supposed to go towards, or?
So there's 2 different things. One would be the pooling together of this ILA, and then we would appoint a person to that group, and then all the people who are appointed get to vote on how the money is spent. Separate from, so that's one thing, that's just for the pooling of the funds. Separate from that is the Pierce County Opioid Abatement Council. That was something that all the settlement agreements have required, that each region set up their own opioid abatement council.
Okay.
And that's to monitor, to make sure that the funds are spent appropriately, that it's spent on an opioid abatement strategy. We're not out, spending it on patching potholes or something that's not related.
So we're paying them 10%.
It's required
So are
under the
they-
settlement.
Right, so how do we know they're spending their 10% appropriately?
So that 10% goes to administrative costs that the county is spending, staffing that. And it's something that we've agreed to, and everyone who's agreed to the settlement has agreed to spend the 10% on that opioid abatement council that basically audits to make sure we've spent the money appropriately.
So can our, the funds that we get, can that be, or go towards our community court, since that seems to be like, something that is helping people to free themselves from drug and addiction can that go towards, financing the court? Because we only had like 5 years or something, or 4 years with the community court grant that we received.
So we could look into using it for treatment providers who are a part of community court, or giving people access to transportation. When we did that request for proposals in August of last year, our hope was that some of the agencies that are already involved in the community court would apply, and none of them were interested.
So they want more money to be able to do more places, more area within Pierce County is what it sounds like. They want to be able to make more money than what they would with just a easy little city here.
Yeah, so that seemed to be the case. I mean, we can always try again, even though they're RFP, if you're not interested in entering the interlocal agreements.
What do you think the actual impact will be for our community if we put this into an ILA with other cities within Pierce County and Pierce County? What do you think we will get out of this to help the people that live here?
I think that there is potential to get a lot. I know there's always the concern being in East Pierce County that the money will be spent in Tacoma, but Tacoma does not want more treatment facilities in Tacoma. They want their people in the community to be able to gain access to treatment in their own community, and they don't want people to continue to have the transportation issue.
So if they don't want more treatment facilities, where would people from Bonney Lake go for treatment now? I know there's a place down in Sumner. I know there's a rehab facility down there. Is there other places locally that our people could be transported to?
There's not very much locally. There's Rainier Recovery has a place in Ording, but most of it is Tacoma. I know Ms. Lewis from the community court. I mean, some people have, depending on what their needs are, sometimes they're going, up to Kent for whatever their needs are in community court.
And so biggest challenge we have here is getting those people that need that help to those locations. And so that's what pooling the money together would help, is getting them transportation. There's so much in this, so there's a lot of reading. I was like, okay, what else could we do as a city to help? I mean, one of the biggest issues we have is kids getting drugs. How do we help educate our community and our schools and our kids? I mean, when we were growing up, there was DARE. I think it was like the coolest thing in the world. You're like, the DARE car is here, the officers are here, at school.
Right, and that is something we're allowed to spend the funds on, would be a program to prevent youth from becoming addicted. And so we could do an RFP for that, or just any sort of application. There's a huge list of what the opioid, pretty much anything that helps people who are currently addicted or prevents addiction, it can be spent on. So it's definitely an option.
I think it would be really super beneficial to have those discussions with our younger generations, and even our 20 and 30 somethings, our 40 somethings, because it doesn't mean just because you're 40 years old, you're not going to get addicted to drugs. It just means that you haven't at this point in time, but somebody could still accidentally, or try it because they're, like, oh, you should just try this. And they may then, be get into that stuff, or maybe they get it from a doctor's prescription. And I saw that there was like trying to get doctors to not write those prescriptions. And how do we do that? How do we get, to make sure the doctors within our city limits don't write more prescriptions for opiates?
I know most doctors won't anymore.
I know they don't want
Break your
to,
back and they won't
but they're really hesitant on it. But
terrified now.
it's huge, and it's such a major issue. And me personally, I know, and we have a lot of council members, everybody's got an opinion on, I'm sure, but I think keeping it more localized where it really affects our kids and our communities and our adults, trying to figure out how we could do that. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think an ounce of prevention, right, goes a long ways. So anything you can do to assist that, but I would also probably say, hey, community court, what have you found to be the biggest pitfall, the biggest problem for people that are going through the process, right? To be, what's their biggest issue? I think it's transportation, I think that's what I'm gonna say, but
Right, and, Ms., as a prosecutor, I don't get to talk to the participants or defendants who are considering community court as often as the public defender or even Ms. Carla Lewis, the community or case manager, because of, all the rules of criminal cases, they might say something incriminating, so I don't talk to them a lot. What I do see as a prosecutor is the transportation, the access to treatment, getting out of whatever living situation they're in, because if you're around people who are addicted, even if you have the best intent to get sober, if everyone you're living with is using drugs, that makes it really hard. I think there is, for some people, that the light bulb hasn't gone on yet, and they might, they haven't sometimes reached the point in their life where they actually want to get sober. To get into community court, though, you have to be screened by the community court case manager, and she has to believe that you are amenable. So, from her, what she's saying, she thinks the light bulb has gone on.
And I mean, I have a personal experience within this right now where somebody can say they want the transportation, they want to go to rehab, they want to get the help, but then they get there and then they don't do it. And I have a little girl living with me right now because of that. And parents were like, yes, this is what we want to do. And I took custody of their child so that they could go do rehab, and they got the transportation, and Grace Harbor paid for everything for them to do this. And then the money was a total waste because they checked themselves out and have completely failed on it. So now a little girl might go up for adoption because of that. So it seems, for me, it's more of a, how do we prevent it? I'm all about venting and trying to help. And I want to see people succeed, of course, if they really want to, but I don't want them to waste the money that we have this opportunity with in something like that.
Well, was this opioids from prescriptions, or was it?
They got into it from prescriptions, and then they got into fentanyl. So it's a big cycle, and it sucks out there right now, and how to get people to not do it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a whole, classes on the chemistry of what the opioid addiction does to the brain and how it makes it so difficult to quit once a person is addicted.
Yeah. Sad.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
really sad.
So,
yeah.
yeah, I was gonna ask next, I need to, do we want to just spend it, on our own and not do the ILA, or, do the ILA? This is all your decisions.
Yeah. It's a very good point, right, with the whole transportation issue, thing or whatnot, so, I would probably be amenable to more of a prevention aspect of it. If we can use it for
How
that.
do we find a program here within Bonney Lake, or create a program with the minimal amount of dollars that we have that's going to be an effective
The biggest bang for the buck.
treatment or prevention program,
Yeah.
This is specifically dealing with opioids and pharmaceutical addictions. So does the ILA, does the opioid abatement program, do they have strategies other than just transportation, or is that literally like their only idea? Okay, we're just gonna use our money for transportation, but we don't want to open up any more treatment centers. We don't want to offer treatment. We don't want to, I guess. And I don't know if we could possibly have a grant that could have enough money in it that could open up a treatment program with somebody who actually has a treatment to prevent or to stop addiction. I know there are certain drugs that you can take that actually help kind of reprogram the brain, and they're more like an herb than anything else that can help people to stop being addicted. But we would need to have a house or a place where people could go for that treatment. And I don't think that $664,000 is going to be enough to
So,
start a program, keep it going. You know, we could start it up. By the time they find a house, then we have no more funds left.
so I asked at one of the opioid meetings I went to, I asked some of the treatment providers, like, how much does it cost to open up a treatment center? And I think it would easily cost billions of dollars per year to
Yeah.
fund the facility. They have rules about with treatment providers regarding the licensing. So you can have, I don't know enough about the licensing, but it's kind of like, it was somewhat similar to as a lawyer, where you have a Rule 9 intern that doesn't have quite doesn't have their law degree and license yet. As long as there's a licensed attorney with so many years experience supervising them, they can, be practicing under that supervision. So you have to have a person with the more education and the license supervising the other people. You have to have so many people in the building on staff at a time for safety reasons. I mean, just at the staffing and the facility, we're looking at millions of dollars per year.
Is there anybody else?
Have that.
Is there anybody else in maybe a group, the Pierce County area that's working on a prevention deal that we can partner with them so we can get a little bit bigger bang for the buck?
And so I think that's the idea behind ILA, is that all of Pierce County cities pool their money. From the meeting I went to last week about the ILA, most Pierce County cities were participating to some level. I think the only one that is not at this point is Gig Harbor. Places like Tacoma are large enough where they're receiving so much money they can choose to kind of do their own thing and also pool. But a lot of Pierce County cities are looking at, I know Sumner and Fife are looking at doing it. So, one option would be to do the ILA, and then the person who's appointed to that committee that's under the ILA could push for more of that prevention with youth as opposed to the transportation issue.
Well, that's where I'm at, where, I feel like this is specifically for opioids, it's specifically for pharmaceuticals. We are not equipped with $664,000 to be able to set up a program. So I'm more leaning towards, I think the ILA is a better idea because we can pool that money together. And then if we can get somebody involved in the committee, would this be a council member or would it be you as a prosecuting attorney? I see Sherry's got her hand up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of support what Dina's saying. I think, and what you're saying, Councilmember Fullerton, this is a today problem, but we don't have the money today to solve this problem. So I think pooling the money is your best bet, because right now we have $19,000. I don't think we're going to make an impact at all. And then the payments, as Dina laid out, are coming in so small every year that I just don't think that the city is going to be able to make the impact you're looking for without pooling it. So I think this is a great option to solve a problem today with the money, instead of waiting until we get all of our money and then solve the problem 17 years down the road. There might not be a problem anymore. Let's hope, right?
Right.
We can dream of that day, right? No, and I get what you're saying. I do get that. I'm whoever, I guess if we do this ILA, whomever is part of our city, hopefully they'll talk with everybody about like what path should we be taking, because I really am about prevention. Sometimes once people are on, they're gone. There's no helping them anymore. So like trying to keep these kids, our high schoolers, we've had issues in our middle schools, we've had issues in our high schools where kids are dealing drugs out of their backpacks and their lockers. And so just trying to kind of get that education out there and giving them opportunities, whether it's, I don't know, something, but just trying to find a way to not be wasting the money that, has been given, or one in this case, I guess, because they clearly made a lot of mistakes within that pharmaceutical world that we shouldn't even have to be dealing with, but we are, so.
To answer your question, Councilmember Fulton, about, it can't, my understanding, I need to double check this with the person who's doing the put together ILA. She was at a conference all of last week. I think it can be a council member or a staff member. I think most cities are, most if not all are doing a staff member. I'm already the person appointed from the city's opioid abatement council, and I think most cities are doing the same thing where that same person is also the person appointed to this committee that's being formed under the ILA.
And I mean, you pretty much know what we're all thinking, so, and I fully trust that you would, do whatever you could for prevention if you have to stand up and shake your fist a little bit.
Absolutely, they're representing the city and what the city wants.
I'm just saying, for me, I'm leaning more towards the idea of signing the ILA, because pooling the money and making sure that the more money that we can to kind of put towards this, it would be great if they could research some, herbs and anti-addiction medications that actually do work. But I'm sure that won't be the process, but I can, when I find those names, I'll get them to you.
And I mean, I guess if it's gonna be a county-wide thing, and we don't have I mean, honestly, I know there was a lot of faults within DARE when we were kids and stuff, but there's new programs within that, maybe, if we adopt something that helps within a county, range here, and making sure it does help us out here and not just the west side of the county.
Absolutely.
I've been shocked at how much we don't get out
Yeah.
here compared to them out there, so.
So you're okay with the ILA then? Sounds like.
I think, yeah, I mean, listening to what you guys are talking about, and if we can really focus on prevention, and I mean, yes, of course, if somebody really, really wants to get help and they're really pushing for it, I know there's places in Spokane and all over the state for different, help, but just because somebody says they want help doesn't mean they're really gonna get the help.
Well, I just feel like kind of transportation, hey, yeah, we're gonna pay for an Uber or a taxi for you to get to your treatment program. That's like a drop in the bucket. That's not prevention. That's like, hey, we're gonna give you a free ride down to Olympia at this point, so that's not prevention. Transportation is, if I tell you, I'm too broke, I can't afford to, go to treatment, but then Councilmember Hubler over here offers me a Ferrari for $350 and it's brand new with all of the stuff, I will find $350 because I want that Ferrari. So I will find the money to get to what I really want. So if I really, really want that treatment, I will figure out a way, whether I have to borrow money, whatever I have to do. But I'm hoping that the opioid abatement strategy program isn't specifically just focused on transportation, that we're actually going to be pooling our money together and finding a program that will actually help people to get off of drugs and not become addicted. So like a prevention program for elementary, middle, and high school, as well as college students. I mean, they get into college and then everything, they're not under their mom and dad's watch anymore, and everything goes to, what, in a handbasket. So just, prevention would be great. But then also, once they are addicted, how can we help them become productive members of society again and not end up a statistic in prison,
For living homeless on the streets.
for living homeless on the streets and not even that they've committed a crime other than being homeless. So, so that would be my goal. as well as Councilmember Hubler, and I'm
Yep.
sure, Deputy Mayor Carter, is that to me, like, transportation is a, that's not even a drop in the bucket. That's not the beginning. That's, you know, that to me is like you're nickel and diming yourself into not having any funds further down the road. So if you can save, you know, 17,000 from us, 17,000 from Fife, from Tacoma, from, as we're getting all this money trickled in, then rather than wasting $100,000 driving people with a taxi to a treatment center, let's focus on that treatment center and, you know, programs that we can put into the schools to teach kids what are the harms of the drugs. You know, you try specific drugs, you try one time and you're automatically addicted.
Yeah.
And they need to understand, you know, this isn't, you know, you can't just try this. You don't try drugs. You're either doing them or you're not. So,
And put the fear of God in them.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it takes, honestly.
you know, let's say that word in school.
I know, but I agree on that. I think that's, I mean, I know, I'm sure.
ILA. Absolutely,
Sounds good.
with the focus of prevention.
All right, so we're good to go.
So
And
next,
that would, yes.
oh, so, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's, I was gonna ask, I think what you're about to say.
The consent
Where
or,
do we go? Yeah,
or full discussion.
I'm comfortable with consent on that. I don't know how you guys feel.
I think full discussion just because I know there's gonna be other council members who are gonna have an opinion on it, and I am 100% pro everybody gets to say their piece, and maybe they don't agree with us.
Okay.
Not everybody agrees on everything, but we can hope and pray, but maybe they have something else that's add to it that we're not thinking about too.
I'm good with that.
Or
finance
committee.
Yes. What's the date we're looking at for that?
The 26th or the 27th. Okay.
Sorry, I know that's more work on you guys, but
26?
Matter of putting it on one agenda versus the other.
That's fine. It'll be a discussion. Okay, brings us to the next one. AB 24-24, resolution 3202, Johnson opioid settlement agreement.
Awesome. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Carter. So this would be, the city agreeing to the Johnson & Johnson. It's also sometimes referred to as the Janssen Pharmaceutical Settlement. That's the two lump sum payments of $73,000, so $146,000 total. The city's already agreed to the first two settlements that the state attorney general's office has negotiated. I would highly recommend that we sign on and agree to this. If we don't agree to it, we could in theory sue Johnson & Johnson on our own. They have an army of defense attorneys. It would be very expensive to litigate against them. There are a couple jurisdictions outside of Washington that didn't go. I think there was one in Ohio, there was one in another state where those cities, they were, you know, big cities really big cities decided to litigate on their own. One of them lost. Another one won at the trial, and then it was overturned on appeal. So, you know, could you in theory sue on your own and get more? Yes, but you're gonna spend a lot of money on attorneys and potentially not get anything.
so I agree. There's no for sure on any of this stuff, and if you have a settlement, sometimes those are the way to go, so.
So this one is, for the two payments of 73,000.
Correct.
And can this be pulled into the ILA as well?
I just, yeah, if you choose to, I didn't put that on there because, it's not in our bank account yet.
Right.
Want discussion on that one at a council meeting as well, or are you guys?
I think that one's just to accept the money, right?
It is.
Yeah, I think this would be okay too, as long as everybody knows what they'll read it, so they'll.
Yeah, and
But it's not a-
again, if anybody has questions,
Yeah.
please,
Yeah.
tell them to reach out.
They can call or email me if anybody has questions.
Consent for the same one on the 26th,
That
does that work?
works for me if it, works for you all.
Let's do that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our next item, recreation program. Mr. Wells, great to see you again.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. So Alex and I sat down right before I left on the wedding cruise with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent for the school district. And they were a little surprised that there's a rumor out there that they were not interested in renewing the ILA because they are very much interested, at least from a staff level, to renew the ILA. And they are, excuse me, going to have a discussion tomorrow at their workshop. To what extent the discussion is, whether it's an actual agenda item or whether it's just an open discussion, see what they might want. Dr. Dent sent me a email. Thank you for the draft since our last conversation. I think the board will want a report from the city of Bonney Lake before extending the current agreement. The board has a study session tomorrow night where this might come up for a topic of discussion. So right now my plan is to also attend the workshop just to see if there's any questions I might be able to answer while at the meeting. It's currently a draft for a 3-year agreement, so that way we can attempt to really look into the weeds of everything and try to become as profitable as possible with the circumstances we have. And Alex did come this evening. She has been meeting with Doug from MRFC or MRAC, and can go a little bit into what their discussions have been and where that path is currently leading.
Alex?
Alex, the floor's yours. Well, Doug and I have a meeting, a month or so. Closer. Yeah. And,
Hang on just a second, sorry. Jerry, did you have something specific you want to say?
I was just gonna add, David, Alex told us last time, it sounded like the school isn't interested in giving up right at school.
Oh, yeah.
That is correct.
And Alex was gonna be working on those numbers and I sent him back. Have you had a chance to work on those for the meeting? I know the deputy mayor asked last time for better numbers.
I have not gotten into the soft costs of the program. We have the hard costs of running the program in that. So I'm still working on what the soft cost and the loss with that associated with that.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
So Doug and I have been talking about what type of programming or what programming we could potentially partner together on, but without absolute direction for me, I can't really move farther than that. Just negotiating, what possibilities there are. There isn't like a clear plan that I'm aware of that Doug is presenting yet to me, but we've discussed different options for recreation programs that could be possibilities. Something similar to a Kids Love Soccer, reworking some basketball programs, are kind of focusing on younger kids, just getting tastes of different types of sports and figuring out a way that we can work together on that and make it a great program.
So would it be more like, just kind of listening to you, the more like the MRAC would get involved and help us more on like the sports side, and the city would continue all other programs, or what are you guys kind of thinking?
We haven't really gotten to that point yet. So it's just been a discussion of what type of programming would be workable to partner together. We briefly spoke about MRAC's programs for taking registrations and how they put together teams and send out emails and things, but nothing more detailed than that at this point.
Okay.
Do you have, and not right now maybe, but do you have something that lists the cost of each activity, each sport?
I have hard costs. The big number, which is going to include the salaries for each specific program. I have the number from Sherry on what our overall costs are for salaries, but not a way to really break it down for each program. So for instance, for Pee Wee soccer last year for 2 seasons, it was approximately $5,800 in income. The hard costs, so for t-shirts or a soccer ball that went specifically to those entry participants, was about $1,300. So we profited about $4,500 just based on hard costs, which when you look at the overall big picture, that's about a 75%. But when we're trying to get all the soft costs, which is what I'm working on now, it won't pay.
Yeah.
It won't be as good.
But does that include the, dealing with the school district and whatever we pay them for space and?
So we don't pay the school district for those field rentals.
Okay.
The mayor.
So,
Sure, yeah.
yeah, I have a couple questions and suggestions and thoughts from back a month ago. First and foremost, the 80% cost recovery is what the council has represented. We have 9 months of data that I've sent out to the council over the past few months that doesn't represent that we're anywhere close to 80%. So from a budgetary perspective, I have great concerns. We are not within budget. We are not close to within budget. So that leads me to go, okay, where are we going to get money? Have we talked, you said the interlocal is word for word the same. Have you talked to them about possibly the school giving us more money? Have you talked to Sumner about them possibly giving us more money? Because 2 meetings ago, so a month ago, I think it was John asked how many of the programs are actually happening in the city of Bonney Lake, and it was pretty much none. So why isn't Sumner adding to these costs? Have we talked to the school district about possibly sending some of those programs back? If we don't do them, who's going to do them? Will they take it back? I know they said they wouldn't, but have we called their bluff on any of this? Those are my greater questions. You know, have we put more effort into getting money somewhere else? Because we don't have the money to continue to do this unless the council members choose to get rid of something else. And the only other things we can get rid of are people in other programs. Other programs meaning cops, senior services, city clerks, finance. You're looking at staff, you're looking at people.
And Sherry, just a point of clarification, what was alluded to when you talked about John a couple of weeks ago, was that the programs are run at the schools. None of the programs are run at Bonney Lake facilities. So
Correct.
All of the rec programs are run in schools or school fields, not at Allen York Park or our facilities.
Right.
Not
Right.
that they're not run up here, because there's obviously school district facilities up here, and those
Right.
they are run up here, but they're run in the school or the school
But
fields.
they're
So just a
also run in the
little
city of
clarification.
Sumner. So city of Sumner used to contribute to the school. We contributed to the school. And the city of Sumner didn't want to take over the program, so they opted out. Well, I think they should be paying for some of these programs if we are picking up right now, $400,000 or $500,000. We don't have that kind of money to continue to do that.
I
I mean-
agree that we should be talking with the city of Sumner because yes, there's a lot that happens down there in the facilities within the city limits of Sumner. But I've heard the stuff that they don't want to help contribute. So has anyone sat down with them as mayor to mayor, city council to city council? Has anybody in the last couple of years sat down with them and said, hey, let's talk about this and let's figure out how we can, because there's a lot of families that come into my shop and they talk about the programs and the things that are happening down at Daffodil, and they love the sports and they love the father-daughter dance. I get asked to donate to it every year. And so I think just maybe we have that discussion. I'm 100% honest. I am not for getting rid of a recreation program. We need to figure out how to fund it. Our kids are more important than a lot of other things within the city. So we have money. It's not that we don't have money. We just have to figure out how to fund it. Whether it's asking for grants, whether it's asking for you know, the city of Sumner to help us pay for it. Yes,
Agreed.
maybe it is asking the school district for more money, but whether they will or not, don't they give us, what do they give us each year right now?
50,000.
50,000? Okay, yeah, that's not a lot, but it's something, and we don't have to pay for facilities, I get that. But maybe there's a way we can also expand the program. Like, what are some other opportunities that we could come up with that could help us expand the program to bring in more funding? You know, summer opportunities, what are, you know, other recreation things that we could do?
So these are not my discussion points. These are just, I'm merely giving you the budget aspect and saying, I don't have the ability to magically fund this. So trying to give the council ideas, David suggestions. I don't think anybody's probably reached out to Sumner since we met with them in 2017, I believe.
The city administrators have talked.
Yeah.
And I know Dr. Dent has talked to the mayor of Sumner a year and a half ago when we were originally working on this ILA. Sumner was not interested, and I'm going to put my mouth on, I'm talking for Sumner. They weren't interested in the discussions about before and after care. They had an interest in discussions after the whole before and after care was handled. So I think that they're not, I can't speak that they're going to say, yeah, well, here's a bunch of money, but they're not completely closed off.
Okay.
And I know Dr. Dent and I know John have also tried to make inroads to Sumner mayor and city administrator.
Okay, awesome.
That's what Fulton.
Okay, so I also know that, when I got involved in the recreation program a couple of years ago, one of the expenses was the T-shirts and the balls and things like that. So why is that cost not being part of the registration fee? So is the kids, like when I signed my kids up, I would have gladly paid an additional $5 for a T-shirt. You know, if the sport requires a T-shirt, that shouldn't be something that the city pays for. You know, because you're saying that that's like a $1,300 expense out of that $5,000 budget. So if we just add $5 on to the registration for the T-shirt and the ball, that would cover that cost, so we don't have any loss there. And I know there's lots of places around where you can get, I used to run the T-shirt program at the elementary school, and we paid $2 for a T-shirt and we sold it for $5. So we made a $3 profit off of each T-shirt. And that was screen printed T-shirt. So that wasn't like an iron-on thing. So that's something that we could look into possibly, so that we can actually make a little bit of money on the sale of a T-shirt. At only $5, we could make something. Or if we have to include a ball, then we could do $10 or $7 or something. So that would include the ball and the T-shirt, which would be part of the registration, but as a fee, you know. And then if there's a family that can't afford it, then we take down the profit and we still have to have them cover the cost. So rather than paying $10 or $15 for a T-shirt and a ball, then as a grant, they could pay the $7 or whatever the city's cost is, you know, so that would help. But I think just trying to figure out ways that we can actually make money to recover costs, because if I remember correctly, it was like an $80,000 expense for T-shirts, just on the thing that I was looking at before, like two and a half years ago, when we started this whole process.
So, excuse me, when Alex and the team set prices, they set the price with that in mind, that there's a T-shirt and a ball coming, so it's a lump sum. So that way families don't feel like, oh, now we're getting nickeled for this, we're getting dimed for that. It's all one lump sum. But we can certainly look at doing it and as an itemized. Do you want the soccer ball this time? It's an extra this much money.
Yeah.
Do you want the ball this or the T-shirt this time? It's this much extra money.
Mm-hmm.
those are things we can look at. The other thing also is currently, there's no official program set up by the council that will allow us to officially give someone a grant for a program that they can't afford. So everybody right now has to pay the full price.
Which I think is something we can address in the future, but we need to address our bigger concern of not having enough money. And I agree with Councilmember Fullerton that, you know, if the spreadsheet that you sent me that we didn't send on to Finance Committee that has this costs this costs this, there were some inconsistencies that I had emailed back. And I think obviously where most of the months have not even been at 50% cost recovery. So we have to have what the cost is now, and then adding, like Councilmember Fulton said, the t-shirt costs, the ball costs, not bringing it down. Because we're operating at a huge loss right now, and that's not what the council agreed to. And I understand Councilmember Hubler that, you know, nobody really wants to get rid of recreation. And I hope we're not forced with that decision, but we're still not seeing what was represented at the September council meeting, or even close to what was represented on how much would be needed to spend of the city's funds.
Yeah, so can we take the cost of the salary of the staff, and then we divide that by the amount of sports that we're offering or programs that we're offering. And then we figure out how much we need to cover the staff cost through registration. And then additional money comes in from the sale of the t-shirts and the balls and the equipment that's needed, you know. Because we don't have a rental for the fields or anything like that. But so we know that we have to pay staff, you know, $50,000, then we need to divide that by all of the programs and how much we need to charge for registration so that we're not losing money. But you can also add in the $50,000 that the school is paying us, and hopefully we can get Sumner to put in, you know, 100,000, 200,000 would be awesome. I doubt it, but you know, we can try. But for half of the cost, since if we can do a 50-50 program, if we really want, you know, Sumner and Bonney Lake, Sumner Bonney Lake School District, Sumner Bonney Lake Recreation Program, then it needs to be Sumner Bonney Lake where we're 50-50. And then we can also subtract that amount of money that's coming in from how much we owe the staff for their salary. And then that can also bring the cost of the registration fee, so that we are covering everything, even if we're just breaking even, or, you know, maybe $50,000, $60,000 that has to come out of the city budget. But 400,000 or 200,000 coming out of city budget, we can't afford that. So we have to start, figuring out if that's possible.
Agree. It's hard to discuss and figure out these things when there's unknowns.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the soft cost is. So we need to know that number. I would like to know that number by the next finance meeting. Okay.
Just to the best of your ability. And there's no, I mean, honestly, finance is my background. In this kind of situation, there's not a way to know an exact cost for each program with our staff, because I mean, how many hours does Alex spend on Pee Wee soccer? How many hours does David spend on rec basketball? You know, I mean, like, they don't really know that because their days are, it's like yours, you know, it's all over the place on which, you know, what are you looking at? What are you working on? So I think just this, to the best of our abilities, I don't know, like, Sherry, is there a way you know how to?
So, I mean,
to
honestly, from
divide
a
that?
CPA perspective, I think hashtag Gwen nailed it. I mean, I think that's what you do. I think you take that salary and you divide it by your programs. If you know you have 100 programs throughout the year, I would divide that salary. Unless, of course, you know, one program's 5 weeks, then you're going to give that one a little more weight. I think you can do a weighted average. I think Gwen nailed it there. Councilmember Fullerton. I think that's great. And we do know all the costs, you know, I pay the bills. I know all the costs. David knows all the costs. He's just having a hard time attributing those salaries to particular programs. And I think this is a great way to do it.
Very good. Okay. Okay. Let's do that. Okay. And you want to get the vouchers,
Yes.
and we're 5 minutes away from council.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that we actually talk about the vouchers. It's a finance thing, it's money. It's money being spent, and there are a few things that I'm gonna sit down with Sherry and I do wanna really dive deep into, because I see some things that, I mean, I went through it with a fine tooth comb. There's money being spent that I think we could be saving on things, because I hear that we need microphones downstairs. And we don't have money for microphones, but we have money to spend on calendars and things like that, where I think we should be looking at our finances a little more in depth. And figuring out how we can actually get microphones that work downstairs. And maybe save just a few dollars here and there on certain things. And so I want to dive a little bit deeper into those things with Sherry. That's, I sent her an email asking to take some time with her and just kind of dive deep. And then figure out how we can make this stuff happen for everybody.
And I already replied back saying, call me anytime. I'm willing to spend as much time as you need on the phone or a Teams meeting, whatever it needs to be. And part of that is probably they didn't budget for those. So that's why they don't have the money for it. So they'll probably put it in the next budget is my guess.
And some things are budget decision cards that get denied.
Okay.
And this is our biennial year, so we'll be bringing a lot of budget to the council
All right.
this year.
With that, we are adjourned. Thanks for everyone.